Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range to talk about the 30 Super Carry, but today we want to do some ballistics testing to see how effective this new cartridge is in terms of terminal ballistics and how does it stack up against my personal carry favorite, which is 9mm. So we're going to dive deep into that today. We're going to be using some clear ballistics gelatin for our testing. And we also just want to talk about the 30 Super Carry in general now that we've had several months of playing with it and kind of forming our opinions around the cartridge. This should be a fun video, guys, so stick around. We look forward to you making comments down below. What do you think of the 30 Super Carry? Do you find any use for it? We'll share our thoughts at the end of the video. So let's get started with today's video on the performance of the 30 Super Carry with defensive ammunition. So let's fire the first shot of the Federal 100 grain hollow point HST ammunition out of the 30 Super Carry. Again, of course, we're using the Shield Plus with its 3.1-inch barrel. And I'm really curious to see what this little hollow point is capable of doing. Now, we are using clear ballistics gelatin. Clear ballistics is silicon-based. Some folks like to pick on it because it's not organic in nature. That is totally irrelevant. The thing that you're looking for is consistency in performance, and clear ballistics obviously does that. We use a lot of it here on the channel, and you'll see other YouTubers doing it as well. All right, so here we go. Chamber that round. We have 2 FBI blocks set up end to end. Let's see what she did. So that little 100 grain hollow point actually performed really, really well. So we got almost exactly 18 inches of penetration in gel, which is ideal. According to the FBI, you want 12 to 18 inches of penetration. And if you take a look at the wound track, we'll show you the slow motion. So you get quite a bit of disruption for the first 6 inches or so. And then it just kind of goes down to a hole in the gel about the same diameter as the bullet. And then the bullet came to rest at 18 inches, nose forward, and it looks like perfect expansion, and I see no signs of it losing any of the bullet material in the wound track. So the bullet would appear to maintain or retain close to 100% of its original weight. So that's actually really, really good. That's what we're looking for. So that certainly seems to be a solid defensive choice if you're using a 30 Super Carry. So let's do a comparison. I have a 124 grain Federal HST 9mm round, and the barrel on the Smith & Wesson pistol is 3.1 inches. On my SIG, it's a P365 XL Spectre Comp. It too has a 3.1-inch barrel. So the only difference is 24 grains, and that's just the nature of 9mm. So let's see how this bullet compares to the 100 grain bullet in the same ballistics gelatin. All right, so let's take a look at how that 9mm 124 grain HST performed as compared to the 30 Super Carry. So the 9mm didn't penetrate as deeply as the 30 Super Carry. It stayed in that first block. We put the ruler up there, and the nose of that bullet comes right to 13 inches of penetration. Again, 12 to 18 inches of penetration in gelatin is what we're looking for. So the 9mm HST 124 grain certainly falls within that range. Now the question becomes, which one would I prefer? Now, based on this simple test, and this is not a comprehensive test of all the 9mm carry rounds out there, but if I was given a choice between these two, I'm going to go with the 30 Super Carry because I want additional penetration. You never know what you're going to have to shoot through. Windows, car doors, walls, thick clothing, whatever. People always like to say that, well, your body is only about 8 inches thick. What do you need 18 inches of penetration for? This gelatin is not representative of actual living tissue. Actual living tissue has varying densities and typically stops bullets far more quickly than gelatin does. That's why the FBI says in test medium like gelatin, you want 12 to 18 inches of penetration. So definitely favors the 30 Super Carry when compared to the same bullet design in the 9mm. So I have an open space left over there in the ballistics gelatin. So let's do a quick test with some of the Federal This is just their American Eagle line of 30 Super Carry. This is the stuff that you would practice with at the range. Just like the defensive load that we fired, it fires a 100 grain projectile. The bullet, however, in this cartridge is a blunt nose solid. So you have a lead core copper jacket that's blunt nosed. Now this thing is going about, on average, about 50 feet per second faster than the defensive load. So let's see what it does in the ballistics gel. So the ball round does what ball rounds tend to do, and that's really deeply penetrate. Each of these blocks is 16 inches in length. That gives us 32 inches of ballistics gelatin. That bullet made a straight, clean line right through both blocks and is off downrange somewhere now. So we don't see any of the stretch cavities that we saw with the 100 grain 30 Super Carry defensive load and the 124 grain HST 9mm defensive load. They both had quite a bit of soft tissue disruption at the beginning of their entry into the gelatin. The ball round, just a straight line right on all the way through. So some folks worry about over-penetration. This would be clearly a case of over-penetration, where the bullet is just going to carry a lot of speed right through a lot of ballistics gel. But once again, ball rounds have their place. The military uses ball rounds. Ball rounds will give you better penetration through barriers and stuff like that, but it's not fast enough or capable of defeating soft body armor. So really, you don't want that over penetration. If you're going to carry the 30 Super Carry, obviously carry a good defensive load with that cartridge. We've done a video previously on the 30 Super Carry. We talked about the history of the cartridge, drew some parallels to a historical cartridge, which was pretty interesting. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. So what does 30 Super Carry bring to the table? Well, 30 Super Carry obviously brings capacity to the table. So if you compare this handgun to its 9mm counterpart, and we're talking about the Shield Plus, the 9mm counterpart has two magazine offerings. You have a 10 round and a 13 round magazine, plus one, you get 11 and 14 rounds. On the 30 Super Carry, exact same size handgun, but it instead carries 13 and 16 rounds. So put plus one on that because you can put one in the chamber, and now you have 14 and 17 rounds. You get 3 more rounds for the same size. That is not insignificant. So then the question becomes, well, how does it perform ballistically? As we've shown in this video, it certainly hangs with 9mm. If it can hang with 9mm, it's going to hang with 45 and 40 Smith & Wesson as well. It's going to be a personal preference choice. So you have increased capacity. You do have reduced recoil. This gun isn't as jumpy, snappy, however you want to describe it, as a 9mm of the same size. So the only downside currently that we can find to the 30 Super Carry is it's limited in the offerings of guns that are out there. Right now we know of the Shield Plus and the Shield EZ. I would like to see more gun companies jump in and start supporting the cartridge. But also we have the ammunition. So the American Eagle line, we just checked the prices on it. It's about 50 cents a round. Compare that to 30 cents-ish for 9mm ball, and it's 20 cents or so more expensive than 9mm. But if more companies make more guns and other ammunition manufacturers jump in and start supporting the cartridge, that price will come down, because if you take a look at the materials, it's less brass, less powder, and a lighter bullet. And therefore, in theory, it should be cheaper than 9mm once the industry spools up and the demand is there for the cartridge. So I'm a big fan. Jason's a big fan, and we've become fans of this cartridge through our testing over the last several months. And now that we have good, reliable, quality ammunition like from Federal, the HSTs, there's really no reason not to carry the 30 Super Carry, in my opinion, other than it's not in a gun that I prefer to carry. In my case, the P365 XL is my carry gun of choice. So I'd really like to see SIG make a gun in this cartridge. I'd like to see HK, Glock, Smith & Wesson already does, just everybody. Everybody needs to take a look at this that offers a defensive carry gun that's of smaller size, because you're going to get that reduced recoil and increased capacity. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you found today's video interesting. We certainly had a lot of fun filming it today. I learned a lot myself about the performance of the cartridge, further solidifying my opinion. It's a really interesting new cartridge, probably one of the best in recent history. If you enjoy this type of content, folks, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. There is a link in the video description below. Also, right here on YouTube, you should see a little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Mash that join button and you can support us here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. Last but not least, please check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 14 years of support, and we will talk to you guys soon.